King Aquilin Fairlin, ruler of the Arave Empire and star of his people, tipped his head back and closed his eyes. Sunlight rained down upon him. Its warmth caressed the bare skin on his face and neck. The rest of him was thoroughly covered, from his golden breastplate to the matching pauldrons, gauntlets, and greaves, not to mention the enchanting flowing white shirt and crimson cloak. The armor was heavy. It was also very hot and uncomfortable, and not even practical. This armor wasn't for protection. There was nothing and no one that could harm him here under the blazing afternoon sun anyway. It was purely for pomp and circumstance. He was to look appropriately kingly on his way to the Arraias palace. I am no longer a king at war. I am a king at peace, and I need to look the part. At least, that's what his eldest brother, Veslin, had suggested. He enjoyed fine clothes, but he longed mostly to be cool at this moment. But this outfit was a concession he'd made to Veslin in exchange for there being no parade waiting for him upon his arrival in Terrail. Do I even deserve a parade? He grimaced and tried to shake that thought away. What if the war was all my fault? His chest felt tight, as now that the exigencies of the war were no longer occupying his every waking thought, and the old guilt was starting to fester and grow again. Raelif was sure that he wasn't to blame, but Aquilin didn't believe in coincidences. Yet how could he have known that slaying their ancient enemy on his own soil would cause any danger to mortals planes away? But ignorance had never saved anyone from consequences. His lips pressed tightly together. It had been easier to push this feeling away when he'd had a battle the next day. But now, peaceful days and nights spread out before him like an unending bolt of grey cloth. He would have to find a way to distract himself by making things better for the newest people, the humans, to join the Empire. But could one ever make up for the near extinction of a species? He'd let his magical senses spread out all around him. Thankfully, he sensed only wildlife and a lone farmer in a far field. No crowds, even though Veslin had agreed to no formal parade. Aquilin wouldn't have been surprised if people had accidentally found out about his location, lined the sides of the road, waved at him, threw flowers at his feet, and praised his name. Because of that possibility, he'd been purposely vague about when and where he was going to arrive, just to make sure that such an accident wouldn't happen. There would be a grand party at some point to welcome him to his new home, but it would, thankfully, not be today. He adored a good party, but this homecoming was a mixed bag for him. He loosened his already light grip on his horse, Erendiel's reins, so that even the backs of his fingers were touched by the sun's golden rays. The sunlight caused him to see orange and red fires behind his eyelids. From the sun, his people got their colloquial name of the Sun Elves, and he obtained his greatest powers to create and to destroy. And hopefully now just to create. The war is over, he reminded himself again. The enemy is vanquished. Destruction is done. Nude picnic. His best friend, Lord Raelif Nerez, suddenly muttered, interrupting his thoughts. What? Aquilin's eyelids shot open as he turned his head towards his riding companion. What? Raelif feigned innocence. Really, Raelif? Aquilin lifted an eyebrow before he dropped his voice, so that their third riding companion, his niece, Lady Elisha Fairlin, didn't hear him and repeated, Nude picnic? Oh, that. Yes, that. I was merely speaking out loud what you were thinking, Your Majesty, Raelif said with mock solemnity. Me? I believe those were your thoughts, Raelif. I am most certainly speaking about yours, my king. Raelif's tone was semi-serious, despite the topic. You've been gazing around at these fields of wildflowers and thinking that we should gallop into them, strip off our armor, fling ourselves into the most fragrant patch of flowers we can find, and then have a nude picnic.